For the people that are getting to know you the first time, Spencer, you are the founder of Honest Ones. You've been working day and night, giving it your all, your soul, your passion project in a way when we met a couple months back. And you recently sold out the collection. Congratulations to that. For those of you who are seeing you for the first time, do you mind giving us your 30-second elevator pitch? Who are you? What is Honest Ones? And what do you intend on building?
So I'm Spencer, founder of Honest Ones. I've been in the NFT space since summer of 21. And prior to that, I started off as a developer back in Web 1.0 days, and then moving over, so last 10 years in kind of director of product management. So working at a variety of multinational e-commerce brands, from furniture, food delivery, healthcare. But I really believe in the movement behind Web3, building with the community, innovating on technology. So I left my job to pursue the Honest Ones project back in April of last year. A much different time in the market than what's happened since. So that's been probably one of the big challenges. The foundation of it was really something centered around honesty and self-expression. So having been in the space from that time and seeing, being a part of projects that ended up being rugs or scams and things like that, I wanted to, just for my own integrity, start with a project that was founded on this idea of honesty. From there, it kind of evolved to, thinking about, how do honest people express themselves? And we came across like more and more research that talked about like how we express our emotions. And the fact that most people regularly hide how they really feel on a regular basis. What can happen is, so if I'm feeling negative, but I'm still like on the outside trying to be happy, those negative emotions actually just continue to get stronger. When left untreated, it can lead to cognitive, mental, physical health issues, in extreme cases, substance abuse, and so on. So we set out to create like the most emotive PFP collection in the space. So something that could reflect how you feel. So that's kind of what we initially set out to do, and managed to find a really great artist named Bo. He's got really vibrant colors, and he does the facial expressions really well. And he really resonated with the mission, which is why he agreed to kind of work with us, because he was still very new to Web3. So it's been a journey since that point of April of last year.
Take us back to April, actually. What was that moment where you decided to make the jump, quit your job, go full-time in Web3? What was that observation, that emotion that you felt?
It was a bit nerve-wracking. Me and my co-founders, we'd all been in the space from about the same time, and we were talking about, we want to try to do this. And we'd met up a few times to discuss it, but it was going to be hard for us to all like be part-time to really push it forward. So I took the decision to kind of take the lead, be the full-time founder on the project, and take it forward. So it was a really exciting time, especially back then, right? The money was attractive. You thought, everybody's we're gonna be like wealthy off of this. And then obviously things changed in the market since then, and it really became less about the money and really about the experience journey. It was exciting, but then also it got really tough. I think as a founder, and you're like, oh man, the whole space is collapsing. In my case, I've got a wife and 2 kids, got mortgage, got all these things going on. And so from going from a, good paying job to zero, and zero is going to be the same thing up until you try to mint, was just a personal challenge. And so even when I was building this collection, it's like me personally, I'm also going through this whole spectrum of emotions that we're trying to represent with what we're doing. It's tough because like the things you're doing to build an NFT collection are like very different from any kind of normal job, right? Like I'm looking at art generation, I'm writing marketing tweets, I'm doing all these, like a jack of all trades, especially as a founder. You're diving into all these things. Other times I'm looking at how to design the website. So it is a challenge, and I think it's one of those things where you just got to have that clear focus, know what your project's about, and continue to kind of build each day and thinking about how you're driving value back to your community.
Let's go deeper a little bit on that, because that's really interesting. So if you can take me chronologically, what were the sets of challenges that you faced along the way from, the idea conception all the way to mint date?
Let's go back in time here. The early challenges, I guess, were, we had the idea, we had the concept, we didn't have an artist, right? So at that stage, it was reaching out. I didn't know Bo beforehand, so I was reaching out to a whole bunch of different artists where I thought their style could maybe work for the type of collection I wanted to build, right? Which was the initial challenge, finding the right artist to bring onto the team and convincing them about this whole Web3 NFT thing. It's still very new to many artists. From there, we started to build out some of the art. And at the same time, I'm looking at how to figure out the initial value, like what is our pitch going to be as well. So I think that's tricky at that point to figure out exactly how you're going to pitch your project. I feel like that takes a few iterations. And so from that point, we were like, okay, we want to do this very organically. So we were, in our communities, we're trying to do network. We're going to IRL events. So that's kind of like a moment where, okay, as soon as you open you start the marketing, which in this case is typically Twitter, you then need to be kind of fairly active. Like you need to have that schedule. And so that kind of changes the dynamic. All of a sudden, okay, I've got an active Twitter account that I need to continue to market to. And you kind of like, you're balancing what artwork you have ready to show as well, because that is also coming together. So those things are kind of happening in parallel. And especially it was a challenge for us because we only have one artist. So from there, we kind of started that, and then kind of the whole summer kind of hit where everything was really quiet. And I think that's at that point where we reached out to you. I think from that gave us this next push to what we want to do. So I think that was one of the things I asked Zeneca was, should we hold on the project? Should we push? And so his advice was really to set a launch date and kind of push for that, because you waiting another month isn't really going to change things. And if anything, the market's going to maybe come up with a new meta or something else that you're going to have to catch up with. And also tweak some of the way we're doing the marketing. Because I think at that point, we were very much, okay, we're just going to show our PFPs, and that would be like the marketing. And I think you turned us on to thinking about the lore as well, and really thinking about storytelling as being part of the narrative. We had in our art collection, we had males and females. Then we had certain rarer skins, cyborgs, and all this sort of stuff that we had. And it's like, okay, well, how do these all come together? How does this fit under Honest Ones? And so then we took your advice, and we spent days and days working on lore to figure out how's it going to tie in. And we tied it into the storyline about this future world and this future city called Hope City, where Earth's resources were being depleted. So there's this really fun element of that. And your debate, like, again, I'm saying, like, in this space, you're doing some really out there things. Like, yeah, who knew I would be writing these storylines and coming up with lore to tie into things. So that was that next phase, is like, you turned us on to that concept that the storylines and the lore was resonating with people when you're doing marketing rather than just showing your PFPs. And then the next thing was like, we're going to open Discord. And so that was the next hurdle. And so a build up until Discord opens, and then how do you keep people active in Discord? And we did a little promotion, which we said first 48 hours get OG. And so we pushed that on Twitter, and yeah, we had 4,000 people in those first 48 hours, which was much more than we had expected. But that gave us starting to build some leverage that we could then move to the next phase. The next phase being collaborations, right? You're going to go through collaborations. Before that, you need your community manager, you need a collab manager, right? You need that in place. In our case, we also invested in Discord security because that's also a big vulnerability for projects where scam links or mods get compromised, and bad things can happen to the community. So, and then a really good collab manager to start to grow, get that kind of organic growth. But at the same time, you're trying to also engage people in Discord. So we had a couple things that we were doing. We did something called an honest profile. So I felt like one of the things in Discords is that, like, there's a lot of small talk or things that are kind of said repeatedly, but I wanted to kind of have a more in-depth profile where people could look each other up, so they kind of immediately get some background on this person in the community. And then the other thing we did was we had like a Discord currency, something called True Syrup, which was awarded for participating, being helpful, And then we had like daily raffles of True Syrup. So you could just join these raffles and get True Syrup. And it was like, because we wanted to be anti-grind, we wanted people to come in, kind of have some fun and see the value we're trying to bring, because we opened what we call our honest shop 3 times before minting. And so that was our way to kind of deepen the relationship with the community. So again, that's a big source of your numbers growth, the growth of the community, but it's also like a bit of a false positive. I'd say that's one of the learnings I think I've had as having gone through the mint, is because so many of those collabs are like, okay, we'll allow list spots to your project. They do a raffle, so you get all these people that have to join your Discord and so on. But because so many are direct to contract, you will just not see those people, right? They don't participate. They don't necessarily pay attention to the project. So they're not really that invested, so surely we're gonna sell out. We've got all these people that are interested in my project. You got those decisions, and then it's that coming up to launch, you're like supply and mint price. That's probably the trickiest thing to figure out, because we had the art ready. We had enough art done for a much bigger collection than we ended up launching, right? So we had enough to do like a 5,000, 6,000 collection, which was our initial plan. But I think just given the market conditions, I felt like one of our ways to get people really interested was like, okay, let's really make a really small supply. So we went with 1,555 at a mint price of 0.033. So mint day happens, and during that allow list phase, which we made 6 hours, we kind of stalled at about 85 mints. Basically, we'd waited about 2 hours into the mint. We're like, okay, we're kind of stuck. There wasn't a ton of activity on secondaries, which is also not pushing people to mint. What are we going to do? So we took very decisive action to lower the mint price and open to public. And we're going to public. So we do that, and we get another maybe 100 mints. I'm going around in all the Discords I'm part of, people I've met. I'm like, hey, we're on public now. Price is only 0.011, so fairly reasonable, pretty low mint price. So I'm trying to shill it wherever I can. I'm getting a handful here and there, so it's like almost like getting mints one by one. And finally, because I mentioned we had that mentoring session with Zeneca, but I went into his Discord and just reminded him, oh, hey, Zeneca, just to let you know, we're minting now. And within about 5 minutes, he's like, oh, thanks for the reminder, just minted. And so I went to then look for the transaction on the contract to then share it with my community. And then all of a sudden there was people were max minting. So the max mint was 5. So Zeneca minted 5. And then I was like, okay, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And within about 5 minutes, supply was gone. And I said, Zeneca, does this happen all the time? And he's like, less so nowadays, like in the bear. And he also doesn't like to think like he's got that much power that just because he mints, everybody's going to mint. But he was happy, like, he was like, yeah, you guys have a great project. So it's good to get, if there's more eyes on it and saw the positive things and they minted, then that's a good thing. So I guess it goes back to a couple things. One is that the influencers matter in this space. I think people still watch their wallets and what they're minting. So I think that part's important. And then also those collabs. So going back to those collabs, I feel like we had success with the deeper collabs we did, meaning it was a collab, but we also did an AMA with their community. The fact is, I think you need to try to get a deeper relationship with them, get on an AMA, talk to their community so they can hear about your project. That makes a big difference.
That's an interesting theory you have going on there, Spencer. So we have the typical collabs, and then we have what we can call super collabs, which are collabs that you've developed a deeper relationship with via doing extracurricular activities like AMAs. You've gone on their Discord, talked with the people themselves, and you've noticed the conversion rate with those super collabs were a lot higher, right?
So the more you can just be like, okay, these guys are legit, and because there's just so many whitelist giveaways nowadays, it's important to stand out in some form, and to kind of, by doing that, you kind of built some trust with their community as well, because that project is willing to host you in these different ways. So I think that is, yeah, that's an important one.
So we have a lot of potential avenues that we can explore right now. So far, we've gone through the challenges you've faced, from the art generation, the branding, which is the lore, becoming yourself as a founder, a jack of all trade. Because you do bring a good point as an NFT project founder. You need to be a professional copywriter, an artist, a blockchain developer, and a marketer all at once to launch an NFT project successfully. And all that, the learning curve is steep. And that's why I feel there's such a big need for content like the value you're sharing right now. So those were the challenges that you faced. Let's look at the color, the light at the end of the tunnel. If you could name 3 things that you did that yielded most results. I'm a big fan of the Pareto principle. 20% of things that you're gonna do are gonna yield 80% of results. So in the context of Honest Ones, what were the 20% of things?
Say whatever your core value is a project, just make sure you nail that piece down, right? So for us, it was, yes, about honesty, self-expression, mental health is an element of ours, and that is expressed through the art. So for us, I think the art matters. Having a known artist matters. So I think people resonate with the art. We get that a lot when we talk to our community. So I think that part is important. I do think finding a good collab manager does matter. So those collab managers are the ones that are talking to these other projects that can get those, those super collabs, so to speak. So focusing on that area. And then as another example, like Zipsy/Supernormal, that was, I mean, it's funny, it's like one of the projects I first minted. I was in the community and got to chatting with their founder, eventually kind of showed him some of the art, talked about the project. And so he jumped on the space. He was actually on the same space with Zeneca as well. And so it's just like continue to build these relationships and with other founders, other people that can support you. Yeah, you just got to get out there. You got to do the AMAs. You got to do the different Twitter spaces. I think, but you can be maybe a bit more strategic in picking the specific ones, or being more targeted. And so you can make those connections, right? And yeah, you don't want to just show them your project right away. You want to like have a genuine relationship, and then they can be interested in what you're doing as well, and see how they can support you as well. So for us, art, collabs, and then building those real relationships with people in the space.
You're talking real alpha right now. It is a lot easier to network during the bear market. Like just a couple of weeks ago, I subscribed to NFT Gods' newsletter, his Substack newsletter, and part of it is you receive access to his private Discord. And I just sent a message. I was like, hey everyone, happy to be here. And I got no response. I got a couple of people, hey Leon, nice to meet you. Through my profile picture, NFT God saw me on Discord. And then I tweeted something on Twitter tagging him, and he goes, reacts, and follows me. Ranked top 3 influencers in the NFT space, goes and engages with you. That wouldn't happen during the bull market when there's a lot of noise out there. And that is definitely an opportunity right now for builders, for project founders. So you mentioned 3 things, the 3 most important things that allowed you to build Honest Ones. Art, a good collab manager, and finally networking, either in real life events, buying into communities, networking with founders, or doing the AMAs. If you could redo everything again right now, with the knowledge, the skill set you have, how would you do things differently?
I'll try to get the art done faster. I think the art, depending on where it is in terms of importance in your project, if you can get multiple artists to work on it, in our case, we couldn't, because we couldn't really replicate his style. But
for context, how long did your art take?
It was a bit on and off, because he also had other projects at times to work on. We were still working on it May through about December. It took a long time. So I'd say like I would try to accelerate or speed up that area. Also having the, like, now that I've gone through it, having the kind of Twitter marketing, the Discord. It takes time, because as you're going through it for the first time, I haven't set up a Discord before, right? So I had to, get a consultant, work with him, get everything set up. And so those things maybe take a lot of time. Speed up the art, have, nail down your value proposition earlier, right? So if you can do that, So I think something that's like a good exercise is almost like a Magic Eden launchpad. Look at all the questions they ask you. Try to answer all those questions, because if you can do that, then you should have like a good pitch together for your project. And yeah, I mean, speed with art, it's just like speed overall. Timing is a real thing in the space, right? Like the market and the timing is like, yeah, you've just got to move as quick as you can.
So, Spencer, let me ask you, now that Mint is behind us, what's next for you? What's next for Honest Ones? What are the next, and this is something that is not often talked about actually on content that I create or the people I have on, but what are the action steps that you intend on taking right now to continue building the community and to obviously to continue building Honest Ones? We're here to build businesses that can sustain themselves monetarily and financially. How do you intend on doing that?
We want to connect and be part of people's digital identity. So we have this, we're going to be coming up with an emotions portal where people can log in. They will have their PFPs, and they'll be able to have they'll unlock like an emotions pack for their PFP. So they'll be able to have different those different emotions. We've got our community manager has written up descriptions on how to cope with those, and so you'll be able to have that. We also have we'll be offering the ability to kind of change your background color as well. So we have right now very busy backgrounds, but sometimes maybe for a PFP, people want something more simplified. So we're going to give you some different options to be able to generate these other art pieces to, again, express how you feel. You know, maybe if I'm feeling a certain way, but I'm not ready to talk about it, but I can throw it up as my new PFP and maybe generate some conversation on Twitter or whatever from that. So that is like the first thing. That's something that I've talked about in the past about the project. I think the next pieces is still have, you know, kind of like our honest shop concept where we were kind of giving back even before the project had launched, kind of having other ways that we, you know, regularly do things where we're kind of rewarding our community. Maybe it's a rewards marketplace. I don't know if I want to use that term, but, you know, we want to find interesting ways to continue to give back to community. The other piece is we've been working with one-of-one artists. So I think that's also part of like our mission is we know a lot of like real life artists, it's a struggle to make a living, right? They work off commission pieces, which they kind of have to find the business. And so yes, of course, maybe you're more established and you got a lot of people coming to you to do commission work. But I think for a lot of people as an artist, it can be tough. NFTs, digital collectibles opens up a big market for these people, but I think it's still a lot to learn. Maybe they don't even have any Twitter, like they don't go on Twitter, right? So they wouldn't know that this is the way people in Web3 kind of communicate at the moment and market themselves. Being able to find and work one kind of artist and bring them into the space and use our platform and use our community as a way to kind of get the word out for these people is something that we want to do. So we did we worked with Jason Duckminton, who's a great artist here in the UK. He did an Honest Ones inspired piece that we did an auction for in the lead up to Mint. And we've got some other artists that we're already kind of in discussions with. And we got to figure out exactly the right way that it kind of is mutually beneficial to the artists as well as our community, how we do that. I've kind of really enjoyed that whole art process and working with my own artist, Bo, on these things. We've been very deliberate in how we've built the brand, even from like the logo and everything. It's just like, it's intended to be like a very approachable brand, right? Like you can kind of like Honest Ones, you can kind of get it right from the get-go. Website is really just really clean and kind of professional. So it's like something that hopefully is then welcoming to other people that are like, oh, okay, these guys have some credibility. You know, maybe if they're wanting to do something into Web3, they'll come and chat with us. So building that brand is part of the long-term play. But yeah, it was still really important step to sell out and then have that new vibe in the community going forward.
Well, listen, man, Spencer, I love my Honest Ones. I don't know if you've seen the one I received, the one I got with the golden skin and kind of the tropical, not tropical, is like a black background city with a green sky. The art looks beautiful. Your project is great. I would always bet on a builder every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So my man, listen, Spencer, you have my support for as long as Honest Ones exists, which is forever and because of the blockchain. Spencer, I really enjoyed this. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right. Cheers, man. Thank you.